What is up, everyone? My name is George, and this is the Sports Freak. All right, so all the potential NFL teams that could draft Tua Tagovailoa, let's get it. All right, so obviously the first team is the Cincinnati Bengals. That's pretty obvious. I don't think they'll draft Tua, but they're number one. Obviously, they're the first pick. They finished 2-14 this season. The Andy Dalton era is, I mean, it's been over. It's over. They were in the playoffs a couple seasons ago, but they never won a playoff game. They'd go there with Andy Dalton, and then they would, Andy Dalton. He in my opinion sucks under pressure. The closest that the Bengals ever got to actually winning a playoff game was when A.J. McCarron was the quarterback, because Andy Dalton was injured. But yeah, this is a team that could draft Tua Tagovailoa, but all signs seem to point that they are probably going to draft Joe Burrow, which it just seems inevitable. It's like you have to take Joe Burrow. I just feel that that's like the decision. If you're the number one pick, you have to take Joe Burrow just because of how great he was last season. I mean, he had like probably the greatest season for a quarterback in the history of college football. The next team, surprisingly, but I'm like a 5% chance of them actually drafting a quarterback, is probably the Redskins, but I don't think they will. They seem like they will not be drafting a quarterback. I mean, they have Dwayne Haskins. I mean, you don't just bail on your guy after one season. This is completely different when people talk about or compare it to the Cardinals and them drafting Kyler Murray. That was because Cliff Kingsbury, who had previously gone on the record when he was the coach at Texas Tech, said that if he was a coach, he would take Kyler Murray with the number one pick. He is a guy who'd been wanting Kyler Murray forever, recruited him, so it makes sense that he would get his guy right there in Kyler Murray. But this is different with the Redskins. The Redskins have not, Ron Rivera has not gone on the record and said, I want Tua Tagovailoa. I know the Redskins are currently, or this week they hosted, or they interviewed Tua and Joe Burrow, but that was just more, in my opinion, it was more of a courtesy thing, like, oh, we have to, interview these guys at some point. But that being said, I don't think the Redskins will take a quarterback, but, they're on the list. And, based on I'm going down the order from 1 to 32. All right, the Detroit Lions, yeah, they could take Tua. I doubt it because, Matthew Stafford has been a really good quarterback. But, he's been like the only good thing with the Lions franchise. He needs a lot of help around him. But like I said, I give it like a 10% chance of it actually happening. The next one is the Miami Dolphins. They have the 5th pick. The tank for Tua. This is like my team who I think will draft Tua. They just seem primed in position to do it. They've been the team that's been rumored for such a long time to have been wanting Tua. There were rumors going around that Ross, the owner, wanted Tua ever since that 2nd and 26 thrown overtime versus Georgia in the national championship, and now their guy is available. Obviously, with the injury concerns, but they have Ryan Fitzpatrick, who would be a great bridge quarterback, great mentor for Tua, and I think it's just perfect. They finished the season strong last year. People were like, oh man, they're completely tanking. No, the coaching staff wasn't tanking. The organization was tanking. The head office was tanking, but not the coaches. They ended up finishing 5-11. They ended up beating the Patriots, was probably the big shocker because like the Dolphins have like probably one of the worst rosters in NFL history. They're just like 6th rounders and free agents or undrafted free agents all over their team. But now, this year in the draft, they have 3 picks in the first round, I think 2 in the second round. They have so much draft capital, so much cap space, so they can easily trade up to the 3rd pick, which is the Lions, or the 4th to the Giants, which I don't see the point. I do not even think the first 4 teams are going to, besides the Bengals, or the teams after the Bengals, 3 teams between the Dolphins and the Bengals are going to draft a quarterback. But, because of other teams potentially trading up with like the Chargers or, the Colts and maybe the Patriots, or, just if another team trades up, that's probably the only reason why the Dolphins would trade up to like the 3rd pick, to make sure they get their guy. But Tua to Miami would be perfect. It's a perfect scenario. People talk about the offensive line, and just quickly want to mention that they are going to sign all the best free agents that they can. Best offensive line free agent, they're going to do it. They have so much cap space. That's one thing people forget. People act like this is a team with like, oh, nothing. They have no money. They have nothing. No, they do. They're going to be very aggressive in free agency. Their GM has stated that. But yeah, the next team that could draft Tua is the Los Angeles Chargers, who just recently moved on from Phillip Rivers after a 16-year career. Back in 2004, I think is when they drafted him or something like that. But yeah, they moved on. They have Tyrod Taylor, and now they could potentially draft Tua. This is the only place. I personally just don't want Tua to go to the Chargers. I don't like them as an organization. I don't think it's a... I do think Tua would definitely help the fans, help their whole... Because they don't have... They're... whenever the Chargers play a game in LA, they're always basically like the away team. The other team always has more fans there. Their fan base is basically very dead right now at the moment. And Tua would definitely give him a spark. But me personally, I don't want him to go there. But he would definitely fit in. Yep, Tyrod Taylor there, who's played 1 games. We saw him with the Bills. He definitely could mentor Tua. But personally, don't want to see him there. The next team that could draft Tua is the Indianapolis Colts. I would absolutely love this if he were to somehow land with the Colts. The Colts are a great organization. They really want to win. They have Jacoby Brissett, who I don't think is he's not their franchise quarterback. He is just a good fill-in for if your quarterback gets injured or something. But he's definitely a great leader, and he could definitely mentor Tua. It's a very talented team, the Colts. They have a great offensive line. They have got playmakers. They've got a good running back. They have a good defense. And they have a great coach in Frank Reich. And I think it would be a perfect fit. Tua, would definitely benefit from the offensive line. He could sit there in the pocket. If you give Tua time in the pocket, he will pick any defense apart. That's like one thing just from studying film I've seen. Tua will pick any defense apart if you give him time in the pocket. You give him a clean pocket, it's over for the other team. And also another thing quickly, this is really unrelated to in terms of sports, but Frank Reich is I know he's very religious. He's a Christian. I think he's like an ordained minister. I think his personality would really click with Tua. Tua is also a very strong Christian, and if you look at both of them, it's just me pointing out just a very minor thing. I think both of their personalities would click really well together, and they would definitely it would just be like the matching of a dynamic duo right there, in my opinion. I would love to see Tua with the Colts. And finally, or not finally, this will probably not happen either. It's probably like a 15% chance of this happening, but I would love for this to happen. This is probably my preferred destination for Tua at the moment is the Dallas Cowboys. I know this is not going to happen. They're probably going to end up using the franchise tag on Dak Prescott. But if Tua were to land with the Cowboys, Tua has said before he is a Cowboys fan. He said recently his 2 dogs were Dallas and Star. His father was a Cowboys fan, so it would just be perfect. And that Cowboys have arguably probably the best offensive line in college football, and then they have a great receiving core with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Randall Cobb, and then they have Zeke. And the defense is loaded with talent. They obviously did not play good this past season, but the potential is there, and I could see them winning Super Bowls with Tua with the Cowboys, but I don't think it'll happen. I think they'll just use a franchise tag on him. I like the Dallas Cowboys. I don't have a favorite team. There's not a team I support in the NFL, but I do like the Cowboys a lot. And I would definitely root for Tua if he was with the Cowboys. But I don't see it happening because they're probably going to use the franchise tag on Zach. And also, Mike McCarthy has come out and said, Dak's our QB and all this and that in support of him. And the New England Patriots, as I mentioned earlier in this video, just like today, the reports have came out talking about Tom Brady and that he's looking to move on from Foxborough. He sold his house, but I don't know what it means. Maybe he's not. Maybe something's happening. I don't know. But he's been apparently the report on ESPN is that he's open to free agency. this is probably the closest I felt to Tom Brady. It's been there for years and years that like, oh, Tom Brady's going to leave this, he's going to retire, he's going to do this season, and it's never happened. He's ended up being the quarterback the next season. This is probably the closest I've ever felt to Tom Brady actually being like, yo, dude, I want to win a Super Bowl somewhere else. Deuces, I'm out. And I think it could happen. I think he could leave. And obviously, Tua would definitely be a great option for Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Tua you learned from the GOAT in college football, and now you're going to learn from the GOAT in the NFL with Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick likes Alabama players. They're always well coached. Nick Saban coaches the players greatly, so it would be perfect fit for him. And, the personality of Tua is the guy who can get on with anyone. Like, just quickly talking about interviews and stuff, Tua in the interview, he probably nailed every single one of his interviews because he's a guy you can just you're gonna fall in love with the kid immediately. You just cannot help but like the kid as a person and as a leader. And I think Bill Belichick, I'm pretty sure they will interview Tua at some point, is gonna definitely like Tua, and I think it'd be a perfect match. But we'll have to see. I just don't think the Patriots are going to be able to trade up high enough to beat like the Dolphins or the Chargers or even the Colts to get Tua. And then another team, which I don't see it happening just because of what's happening, the Tennessee Titans. They obviously made a really great run almost made it to the Super Bowl. Just lost to the Chiefs, but they beat the Patriots, and they beat the Patriots, and they beat the Ravens. The Ravens were like huge favorites. They got it all the way there under Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill did a great job. Derrick Henry ran over every team along the way, and Tua could potentially go here if the Titans, he somehow lands at the Titans, which I just don't see it. But that'd be another option. It'd be a good scenario. You got a great coach, good defense, good playmakers on offense, but I think they're going to give Tannehill a contract, which I personally would not give too much to Tannehill. I've seen these one-year wonder stuff. I would wait for the second season because I've seen Tannehill in Miami, and trust me, he was very average. I would not throw too much money at him if I was the Titans. And then quickly, just one other place, which I was kind of not sure about mentioning, but the Buccaneers, they have the 14th pick. They're right behind the Colts. For some reason, I just don't see that happening. I don't know. But they could potentially be a landing spot for Tua. They have like I said, they have a great team. Playmakers all around the field on defense and offense. We all saw Jameis Winston, his 30 for 30 this past season. Obviously, Tua will do a way better job than what Jameis did. Tua's accuracy is uncanny. He will actually place the ball in the receiver's arms and not the safety's arms or the cornerback's arms. So, that would be a good fit too, but I just don't see it happening. And then another honorary mention is the Raiders. I personally would not, from the perspective of the Raiders, Derek Carr, he had a solid season last year. There were ups and downs. It didn't help that he didn't have any, Hunter Renfrow was probably his best receiver. He needed more than just Hunter Renfrow, which I think they need to draft a wide receiver. Their defense, they need a lot of help on defense too as well. But I could see if John Gruden, falls in love with Tua, I could see him trying to trade up and get him, but I don't see that happening. But those are all the guys, those are all the teams that potentially could draft Tua Tagovailoa in this year's draft. Personally, Tua is probably I'm going to make a video talking about my, the rankings of my top quarterbacks for this year's draft. I personally have Tua, number 2 at the moment. Obviously you can go back and watch, all his highlights and film and stuff, and same with Joe Burrow. Those are the 2 quarterbacks I've paid attention to a lot, and along with Justin Herbert, and to an extent Jacob Eason. But I have not watched much of Jordan Love. I've heard a lot of mixed stuff about him. I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to him to see how he, his film, what it says about him as a player and as a leader. But those are the teams, though, by the way, that could potentially draft Tua. You guys let me know down below with what you think, if you agree with me or not. Who do you think Tua will end up with? Who do you think should draft him? And what do you think about, how do you think Tua is going to do in the NFL? I really want to see what people think about that. You know, because I get a positive response from that, but people are always talking about and saying he's made of glass, he's made of glass, he's made of glass, which I do not think Tua is made of glass. I watch, you know, because I'm an Alabama fan, I watch Tua a lot, obviously, and he took so many hits in college. It wasn't like he got that one hit and then he hurt his ankle. No, he got hit so many times. He got overhit, and a lot of times players or defenders were trying more to injure him in these tackles than just knock him to the ground. But his only problem, in my opinion, is he tries to extend the play too much, which is something I believe whatever coach he has in the NFL is going to tell him and work that out of him about extending plays, you know, knowing when to give up and when the play is dead. But yeah, that's the video. As I said, let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure to give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications. And yeah, I'll be coming with another video soon. So yeah.